of your feet, and make sure your weight feels evenly spread and all of the sole of the foot equally on each side is in contact with the mat. From here, pop your hands onto your hips, and we're just going to do a couple of Pilates style breaths just to get back into the habit of it. So in Pilates, we breathe in through the nose, taking the air into the side and back of the ribs, and then when we breathe out, you want to squeeze the air out, starting with the abs down by your knicker line, and move the air up through the torso and out through the mouth. So in through the nose, into the side and back of the ribs, and then squeeze up through the body for the air to come back out through the mouth. And one more breath here like that, just focusing just on the breath. And then when you're ready, drop your hands on the exhale down by your sides. And we're going to move through some nice big backward shoulder rolls. So bring the shoulder forward, up, back, and down. So rolling through a nice big circle with the point of the humerus as the point of your shoulder. Imagine that drawing a nice big circle. And as you come back and down, feel the shoulder blades moving together and down the back. So getting a bit of mobility into the shoulder joint, but also just mobilizing and releasing some of those little muscles around the shoulder blades so that we can get those shoulder blades where they should be. Lovely, well done. To take your feet now slightly wider than your hips, and make sure you feel stable on your feet. So hands on hips, we're going to move into some pelvic circles. So not enormous to start with, just take the pelvis round, drawing a circle, just moving with the breath. So ideally doing a breath in for half a circle and exhaling for the other half of the circle. So keeping this nice and slow, and really focusing on making that circle as round as you can, so rounding through any lumpy cornery bits, and just notice where you're feeling tight as you move through this circle. Last one this way, it's quite revealing about where we're tight through the hips and where we're tight through the thighs. So you quite often feel a bit of a pull through, for example, the inner thigh, and reverse it, so going back around the other way. And really moving slowly and precisely here. So really thinking about rounding. No corners, no, it might feel a bit lumpy, but really focusing on trying to smooth out any hexagonal, octagonal, pentagonal, bumpy bits as you make your way round. And half a circle per breath. And then last one of this size before we make them bigger. So inhale for half a circle, exhale for half a circle. Great. And now from here, take your feet even wider so you've got even more stability. We're going to move through some really big ones now. So pushing the bum back, nice duck bum as you reach behind you, and then over to the side, forward, over to the other side, and then reaching back behind you, feeling the hamstrings as you move behind. Doesn't feel very elegant, this one, I get that, but it's super effective at just mobilising and beginning to release some of the tightness around the pelvis and around the hips and in the lower back as well. So really almost feeling like you're stirring a massive bowl. It would be quite enormous, but trying to visualise that circle that you're drawing with the pelvis and with the hips will really help you. Last one this way will really help you keep this movement as smooth as you possibly can. Brilliant. And reverse, so going back round the other way. And it's totally normal, of course, that one way feels slightly easier than the other, that your lumpy cornery bits pop up in different places when you're going around clockwise versus counterclockwise. And all of this will improve with time. And the more that we do this, the more flexible and easier you'll get. It's quite normal as well to get a little bit sort of, not big popping, but you know what I mean, little sort of releases through the lower back as well when you're moving through these. And a bit of a release on the hamstrings too. So last one, really lifting the bum as you move it behind you to lengthen through the back of the leg. Great. So we're now going to do a really important and useful release for us as riders, for our lower back mobility in the saddle, for our straightness when we're absorbing the horse's movement, and for any achy lower backs. You can do this sitting on a stable hard chair as well, but otherwise, take your feet wide, make sure you're feeling solid and stable, and tuck your pelvis under. So a bit of a bend in the knee, and drop the pelvis down, okay? So sitting down into your knees almost is a bit the feeling, pelvis tucked under, a little bit of a bend in the knee, feeling nice and stable on the feet, nice and wide. Roll your shoulders back and down, long through the back of the neck. And what you're going to do, take your right hand and rest it lightly on the back of your hand, or back of your head. Take your other hand to hook your fingers around the elbow. And we're going to work with a kind of healthy tension. So in essence, what's going to happen is your elbow is going to want to go back and your hand is going to resist it, bringing it forward. So you're creating this kind of tension between the two. Okay, so here's your move. Let me show you first. So you're going to bring that elbow up and over, lengthening through the right-hand side of the back, towards the opposite knee. So here your elbow is trying to push back into your hand, and your hand is just about winning to bring the elbow over towards the knee. And you're getting longer through that right-hand side of the back. And then as you go back up, the elbow is pushing back towards the wall and the hand is resisting it, but the elbow is just about winning. Okay, so you're setting up that sort of 10 to 20% tension between the elbow and the hand. So let's set up for the set. So inhale to prepare, then exhale to scoop the abs back in as you bring that elbow down towards the knee, resisting with the hand, pointing that elbow towards the knee, feeling longer through that right-hand side of the back. And then as you come back up and over, the elbow is pushing back, the hand is resisting it forwards, but the elbow is just about winning. And come back up to the top. And when you're ready, go again. So really lengthening up and over with that right-hand side of the back. You've got 10 to 20% of resistance going on between the elbow and the hand. And straightening back up, the elbow pushing into the fingers, and the fingers just about losing to let the elbow win to come back up. And go for a third one. Keep that pelvis tucked under. So curling and reaching over. You should feel a great lengthening down the right-hand side of your lower back with this. Experiment with how much tension you're creating between the elbow pushing back and the hand resisting. You don't need to go heavy-handed with it. A little bit of resistance is enough to create the muscle release effect that we're looking for, but experiment with what feels most effective for you. And last one on this side. So on an exhale, bring that elbow up, over and down towards the knee, resisting backwards with the elbow, pulling forwards with the hand, and then as you come back up, pulling backwards with the elbow, resisting with the hand, and feeling those muscles through the right-hand side of the back, and release. Great job, bit of a reset through the shoulders. So get yourself stable, knees bent, your pelvis tucked under. Make sure you keep that all the way through. Left hand gently behind the head, right fingers hook around the elbow, and on an exhale, bring that left elbow up, and over and down towards the knee. So with the hand pulling down and the elbow pulling back, creating that tension between the two, and then smoothly coming back up, with the elbow just winning out. Inhale at the top, exhale to bring that elbow up and over and down towards the knee, lengthening through that left-hand side of the back, and smoothly returning the other way, so the elbow pushing back to straighten you up, the hand resisting to create that bit of tension between the two. No weight into the back of the head here. just, yeah, try to suffocate yourself behind your bicep. Make sure your pelvis is staying tucked under. Bring that elbow up and over and down towards the knee, resisting elbow to hand, and then slowly uncurl and back the other way with the elbow just winning out against that bit of resistance that it's getting from the fingers there. And go again. You should feel it lengthening down the left-hand side of the spine here, just in the small of the back, just where we can get that real kind of niggling crampiness down the side of the spine. It's brilliant for releasing and mobilising that part of the back. And the last one this side. So on the exhale, bring that elbow up, over and down towards the knee, with the elbow resisting back against the hand, and then uncurl, have the elbow just win out against the weight that it's getting from the right fingers, and come back up to upright and release. Brilliant, that's a fantastic one, that one. It takes a bit of a knack to it, but it is so worth persevering with. So bring your feet back in, reset the shoulders, stay long through the back of the neck. And we're going to come now to the end of the mat to get a little bit of mobility into the spine and transition to our next position. So standing tall, back of the neck long, roll the shoulders back and down, feet slightly wider than hips. From here, we're going to tuck the chin, lengthen through the back of the neck, and then continue to roll down through the spine. So one vertebra at a time, coming over, and rolling over and down, slowly, slowly, slowly. Let the arms hang. And when you get down here to the bottom, let the knees bend as much as you need to. And then when you're ready, you can walk the hands out to come into all fours. So in all fours, we want our hands below our shoulders, our knees below our hips, our abs on so that we're not sort of sagging through the middle. And from here, we're going to scoop the abs on an exhale to lift and arch the back up into what is a cat stretch, normal cat stretch. But then from here, move your bum halfway back to your feet, and then staying arched, curl your quarters, your bum to the left, and then slowly, slowly, slowly staying arched, curl them round to the right. So it's like with an arched back, we're moving slowly through a travers and a renvers, if you like. So smooth movement, keeping arched through the back, nice and slowly, move back through centre before you move over to the right, to centre, and curling. It's almost like you're really slowly wagging your tail. And each side, you should feel even more of a release down that side of the back that you're lengthening. And then from there, sit back into a child's pose with your arms reaching forward. Get as much length as you can through the back, and then feel like you're pushing your shoulder blades down through your ribs towards the mat. So you're really sort of trying to flatten through the muscles across the back of your shoulders and pushing your collarbones down towards the mat with your arms reaching away. Then scuttle your hands over to the left-hand side to increase the stretch down the right-hand side of the body. Breathe some big air into those right ribs. And then when you're ready, scuttle them back over the other way, so the hands are over to the right, lengthening through the left-hand side of the body and taking lots of air into the left-hand side of the ribs there. Take a breath or two here. Feel the release through the back. And then bring the hands back to the middle and slowly, slowly restack the spine and curl to bring rolling the body back up to kneeling. Fab. So now we're going to get into mobilising our hips and switching on the little muscles in the glutes that we need for a symmetrical seat, for longer legs, for control over our legs in the saddle. We're also going to open up our chest and wake up the stabilising muscles for our consistent contact, starting from the shoulder blades. So come through all fours, and then from here, bring one foot up between the hands. Keep the back knee down on the mat. So take that back knee back a little if you need to get a feeling of stretch into that hip. Bring the upper body up tall, roll the shoulders back and down. Think of the crown of the head, pulling the back of the neck long, and sink down into the hips. You want to feel a stretch across the front of that hip. It can feel intense, but it shouldn't feel sore. Don't push it to the point that it feels sore here. Just have a breathe into that stretch, into that release. Feel like you're taking the breath down into that hip that's stretching out. And think softness through the joint. Then take the hand on the side with the knee down, the stretchy side, reach it up to the ceiling, and then grab the wrist with the other hand and gently pull over into a banana shape, so you're increasing that feeling of stretch through the hip on the side where the knee is down. And take some deep breaths here to really feel that release and lengthening through that side of the body. One more breath, big breath into the ribs, and slowly and gradually release, come back to upright, and then release and take the other knee back. So set up on the other side. So again, let your hips push down into the stretch, feeling that stretch across the front of the hip on the side where the knee is down. Take a few deep breaths here. Make sure that it's not feeling sore. As I said, it can feel a bit intense, but you don't want to feel like you're pulling it to the point that it's sore. Then take the hand on the side with the knee down, reach it up as tall as you can before you grab the wrist with the other hand and banana over. So you're really lengthening through that side of the body on the side that the knee is down. And take big breaths here, big breaths into the ribs, really expanding through that side of the body as much as you can. And just allowing time for that side of the body to open up. And then release, come back up to upright, drop the hands down, come back to all fours, and make sure your shoulders are down away from your ears. So from here, we're going to wake up some of those little muscles that we need in the glute to mobilise the hip. So left leg, bring the heel towards the bum and shift the knee back an inch or two. Point the toe. We're going to swivel through the hip, pivoting on the knee. No weight in this knee, but pivoting to bring the toes out 90 degrees to the left of the body, and then pivoting on the knee to swivel and bring the toes and point them and tap them down 90 degrees to the right of the body. And just keep moving through this swivel, a bit like we're wagging our tail again, but with extra rotation through the thigh and the hip. And you will feel quite a lot of mobilisation through the lower back. Make sure your knee isn't going for too much of a walk. It will try to kind of slug itself off the mat a little bit, so just keep an eye and make sure that it's not wandering off too far behind you or out to the side. You might need to reset a little bit. I'll make that the last one. Fab. And then just reset and let's set up on the other side. So I'll just swivel around so that you can see more clearly. So right leg, bring the heel towards the bum, shift the knee back an inch or two, point the toe and pivot to swivel and tap the toe down 90 degrees out to the side and 90 degrees across the other calf. And just keep moving through this tail wagging, but also rotating the thigh in the hip socket. It's a really gentle movement, but really useful for us. Make sure there's no weight in that knee. And of course, keep an eye that it's not wandering off and gradually kind of slinking you down out of position onto the mat. Last set. So tapping the toe down and swiveling through the hip and release back down. Brilliant. Well done. So just reset your all fours, and then from here you're going to bring your quarters, your bum, your bottom half, over to the left, as if you're sort of on 3 tracks and in travers again. So the right-hand side of your body is longer than the left. And then from here, your left hand is going to reach out long towards 10 or 11 o'clock, off the mat, and then lower your chest down towards the mat. Keep your shoulder blade on that side engaged down and against the ribs, and push that shoulder blade down through the ribs towards the mat to bring a stretch across the front of the shoulder and the chest. You can bend the elbow on the stabilising arm as much as you need. After about 20 seconds or so, can you move that arm out or bend it further to bring your chest even lower? And just take your time here. Make sure that left shoulder is engaged, that shoulder blade is engaged, and the shoulder blade is flat against the ribs and pushing down towards the mat. And just take big, deep breaths here, feeling that stretch and release across the front of the chest, the front of the shoulder, maybe all the way down the arm, if you have had very sort of closed posture through the front of the body recently. And we're not going to rush this one because these can take a little while to let go. So just get comfy and take some big, deep breaths here. Get lower if you can as it releases. But just breathe and give those muscles time to chill out and let go a little bit. And then release out of that stretch. And then let's set up on the other side. So once again, I'll spin round so that you can see. So in your all fours position, you're then going to take your quarters over to the side as though you're in travers again, and the left side of the body is longer than the right. Take the right hand to reach up long towards 10 or 11 o'clock, lower the chest down towards the mat, keep the right shoulder blade engaged down against the ribs and pushing towards the mat to stretch across the front of the shoulder and the chest. Bend that elbow on the stabilising arm as much as you need and as much as you can, and as you feel like you begin to release through the front of the shoulder and the chest, see if you can go even lower, see if you can bend that stabilising arm even more, see if you can take it further away, and just breathe, 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 breathe. Really useful for us to get these muscles to let go across the front of the chest so that we can sit nice and upright when we're in the saddle, and make sure our contact is starting in the right place, which is at the back of the neck and between the shoulder blades. So release from the stretch and straighten yourself out back into your all fours. From here, what we're going to do is just, with your abs switched on, move the knees back and move through a kind of press-up type position smoothly down to lie on your front. With your toes pointing away, your hips square, your shoulders down and back, your hands out alongside your ears in a sort of W shape. We're going to now switch on and wake up the muscles between the shoulder blades. So inhale to prepare, exhale to bring the shoulder blades back down and together and use them to lift the head, neck and shoulders from the mat. And release back down. So we're going to just run through a few repetitions of this. So exhale to lift, starting with the muscles between the shoulder blades, and inhale to gently lower the forehead back to the mat. Exhale to squeeze the shoulder blades down and together and lift the head, neck and shoulders up. And inhale to return. So you can have as much or as little weight as you need in your hands here, but what you're aiming for is for the effort and the work to originate and as much of it as possible to happen in the muscles around and between the shoulder blades. So exhale to lift, really working as active as you can between those shoulder blades. And on this last one, we're going to hold up for longer. So exhale to bring the shoulder blades down and together and lift the head, neck and shoulders up and hold, hold, hold. Really active between and underneath the shoulder blades here. And slowly release back down to the mat. Brilliant, well done. So from here, we're going to come over to lying on our side. So we can spend a bit of time waking up the small glute muscles, which often switch off, but when we need them to be active and equal on either side of the pelvis for a straight deep seat. So bring your heels in line with your bum, knees bent. You can have your head on your upper arm or up on your elbow. Make sure your hips are stacked so your top hip is on top of your bottom hip. And you also want to make sure you can fit your fingers underneath your waist here. So there's tone in your waist to lift your waist up off the mat so you can fit your fingers under quite easily. Put your top hand down in front of you for stability. And what we're going to do is keep the toes and heels together, hip forward. We're just going to open through the knee and slowly and smoothly back down. So just keep going with that movement. So what you're looking for here is that that hip is not moving. All of the movement is coming from and being driven by the tiny little muscles around your seat bone. So your range may be a lot smaller than this. That's absolutely fine. What matters here is it's the little glute muscles creating this movement. So keep that hip stable, keep that hip pushing forward, keep the heels together, the toes together, and rotate that knee open. It's more of a rotation than a lift. Brilliant. And just take your time here, controlling it on the way back down, as much as you're controlling it on the way open. Last one this side. Keep the heels and toes together and control smoothly back down. Brilliant. Let's set up on the other side, so you can either flip over or just swing your legs around. So line yourself up so that your heels are in line with your bum. Your hips are stacked, so your top hip is on top of your bottom hip, and your waist is toned up off the mat on the lower side in contact with the mat. Hand in front of you for stability, and heel and toe together, and just move into the slow and smooth opening of that top knee. Keep that hip pointing forward and stable, so no movement or rocking from the hip. All of the movement is in the tiny little muscles in that butt cheek on the top side. So keep the heels and the toes together, keep the hips completely still. Think of a rotation. Really imagine those little muscles, visualise those little muscles around your seat bone, getting to work to hinge that leg open. Brilliant. Last one. And slowly, slowly and smoothly lower it back down. Fabulous. Brill. So come to seated. And what we're going to do is we're going to take one foot and tuck it almost under the opposite buttock. The other foot lifts across the resting knee and plants down on the mat on the other side. We want to keep both butt cheeks down on the mat, no lifting. So take your arm and hook it around that top knee and pull it into your chest. Feel the stretch here in the glute. Then turn to look behind you, rotating through the spine. And just take a couple of deep breaths here. Sit tall. Think of growing another inch taller through the crown of the head. And allowing the rotation of the spine just to ease all those muscles either side of the spine there. And down into the glute. And when you're ready, you can release. And we'll set up on the other side. I'll just spin around then so that you can see. So what we're going to do is take the other heel and neatly tuck it underneath the opposite buttock. And then the opposite foot lifts across the resting knee to plant solidly on the mat on the other side. Both butt cheeks down, hug that knee in towards the chest so that you can feel the stretch in the glute, and turn to look over your shoulder. So you're rotating through the spine. Grow tall here, make sure you're growing an inch taller through the spine as you rotate round. And imagine, visualise space between each of the vertebrae so that you're really creating that feeling of length through the spine. And then just breathe here for another couple of breaths as we let that glute loosen off. And then when you're ready, you can release and untangle your legs. And you are done for today. So that was a fab session, really getting into releasing some of the muscles that quite often are clinging on or getting a bit tight and beginning to wake up the muscles that we do need to get to work for us in the saddle.